Lunar Knights here. Welcome to Part 3 of the Advance Wars 2 No Capture Challenge, perhaps better referred to as the grand finale of this run. Today, we will either go all the way or fail spectacularly, throwing everything I can muster at it. If you have any doubt how committed we are, take note that I didn't even use a meme thumbnail this time. That's when you know it's gotten serious. The rules of the challenge are the same as they've been. I cannot capture properties, including HQs, and thus must work with the very limited funds I receive from starting bases. Since this is the grand finale, I won't linger here too long, and let's jump right in. When last we left, we'd begun the campaign to liberate Green Earth, the final Allied continent before Black Hole itself. We managed to fight our way in 2 missions to unlock the second set of missions, and I'll be skipping Eagle's first pre-deployed mission in favor of these, since while the anti-air fortress mission is one of my favorite missions in the game, its nature means that it's a free win for this challenge. Unless it becomes absolutely necessary to progress to the factory mission, I'm going to avoid it from here on to make this run even tougher. Since we're ignoring Eagle's first mission, it only seems fitting we travel to his second mission instead. Here, Sammy has tried to bring supplies up from Orange Star to support our war effort, but she's been trapped by Adder's forces and pinned down in a terrible spot with few troops. This mission doesn't have a numbered time limit on it, but there's actually a genuinely tight time limit on it because if you don't assist her right away, Sammy's forces will be crushed in a matter of days. Thankfully, Eagles brought some of his air forces we spared by skipping the previous mission to assist here, and it will be absolutely crucial to getting anywhere. The map is massive, and it's shaping up to be a rough haul. With only 5 properties to work with, I'll need to practically treat this one like a pre-deployed no-build mission. The most useful units here are bombers and fighters, for their power and range. Normally, you're intended to use your initial force just to slow Adder and buy time for Sammy to escape the middle. During that time, there are tons of other properties to capture, and you should then use your plentiful funds to pump out more air units to turn the tables. I also like to capture this base for Sammy so that she can deploy new units and ensure she won't be routed. Neither of those is an option for me now, and while I'll be able to scrape together enough for a new unit occasionally, those reinforcements will be few and far between. Effectively for both commanders, what you see here at the start is what I'll be working with. With Eagle, I'm immediately splitting my forces to intercept Adder's 2 air squadrons because I know if they reach Sammy, she's done for. Sammy's position in the middle is truly a precarious one, and I never know what to do with her units at this stage beyond sitting tight and hoping that something will accidentally come into firing range. The forces she starts with aren't even enough to do anything, and at most only seem to provide a slight deterrent with the indirects. The key word is slight, because they're overwhelmed incredibly easily by any reasonable force Adder sends. The fighting is tense, and I need to make the most of every unit I've been given if I want to have any chance. Repairing is not an option again since the airport is too far away and I need all of the funds to save up for new units. It doesn't help either that the distance makes running out of fuel a valid concern and that Adder's forces have a solid anti-air lean. Since I didn't mention it earlier, aside from saving Sammy's units, my goal here is to destroy the 4 laser turrets on the map since routing Adder is going to be impossible. These turrets can fire every single turn, unlike the prototype ones back in Yellow Comet. I will do all I can to delay his captures, but his forces will undoubtedly overwhelm me if given enough time to build up. It's hard to put into words exactly how tense this mission was feeling, and though I'm proud to say I somehow managed to finish it on my first attempt, I was almost constantly debating whether too much was lost and a reset was necessary. Everything felt like constant desperation, especially since even once I did meet up with Sammy, there was no chance I had the forces to actually protect her. My only option was to sacrifice most of her units to buy time for her mech to escape all the way back to my HQ. If you look at how much space is between her start and my HQ, that gives you an idea of how many turns were passing and how much my forces were being worn down. At one point, I even accidentally moved her mech in range of the laser turret, taking its HP down from 6 to 1 for near certain doom. This was terrifying, and I thought it was the end as Adder pushed my HQ. There's been some missions in this challenge where I'd really love to show you the full mission just so that you can see how wild it was, and this is one of them. But that's not possible because this mission alone is 2 to 3 times as long as I expect this finished video to be. In the end, Eagle's Super manages to come in clutch on a Hail Mary charge to net me a desperate win. Let's just let that sink in for a second. Everything came down to that one moment timing perfectly. After saving Sammy, we head to Jess's Volcano Mission. The gimmick to this map is that every turn the volcano in the center erupts, and sprays certain tiles across the map with hot lava that do 5 points of damage to any unit on them. The tiles are predetermined and follow 2 patterns based on whether it is an odd or even day, allowing you to predict where it is safe to stand. Most of the time this lava is just an inconvenience for players since it's a high-income map by the mid-game, but in this run, a careless bad hit can completely cost me a run. I have the pattern, but it's easy to get caught up in the battle and forget long enough to take a hit. Right from the first start, it's clear this is going to be another hard grind. I start with 6 properties for income, and again this is a map designed around capturing key strategic properties to advance on our opponent. In this case, these are a series of bases in the unoccupied corners of the map, and they're incredibly helpful because the map itself is large and takes a long time to cross. Having those bases provides rapid reinforcements to the front line to help overpower Hawk. I know Hawk likes to push hard to the bottom corner to take those bases quickly, and since Jess has boosted ground units, I initially tried to rush Hawk here thinking I could overpower him. Denying him here would provide a quicker routing opportunity. It turns out, I was pretty wrong with that idea. He was able to capture the base on his side and likes to build early artillery. While I can hold him for a long time, that center span was a double-edged sword that slowed him while also preventing me from pushing forward. Much like back in Blue Moon, tight bridges are the bane of my existence when it takes me this long to reinforce. With enough time focusing all of my efforts to the south, Hawk gradually expands, builds up his forces, and overpowers me. Splitting my forces between the 2 sides has a similar effort because divided, neither of my small forces have the power to compete. It doesn't help either that Hawk's CO powers are a great counter to me in this run. My next big attempt, I decide to rush north and ignore the south. The AI really favors the south for some reason on this mission, so pushing north is unchallenged until I'm well around the first corner. The problem is, this is such a long drive for my vehicle that it takes 3 days to even get around the corner, and then more days still before I even reach any of Hawk's units. I'm not even counting his territory, because there's another frustrating bridge to deal with before his HQ. This is a good time for me to talk a bit more about this map because I'm genuinely curious what all of you think about it. I like the concept of this map, I really do. The volcano in the center and the daily patterns are a neat way to mix up gameplay from what we've seen in this campaign, and I'll always encourage devs to innovate and mix up their missions, even if it's not perfect. In this case, waiting for the volcano to do its thing at the start of each turn gets a bit old for slowing down the pace, and despite liking the volcano as an idea, I've always found this mission to be on the tedious side. That said, I suspect most of the reasons for this feeling likely stem from the design of the map itself. It's just kinda boring. Simple map, bases only, lots of long drives before getting stuck in tight choke points. I get that the big element is the volcano, and maybe coding in the volcano limited what the devs could do with the map because it took up too much processing power or something, but considering we're in green Earth, this close to the end of the game, it feels like there should be more, I don't know, points of interest? In this map, you either hard push north or south, and the type of push is similar either way. It's too big and yet too limited to offer opportunities for flanks, and while you can do a bit of water crossing with mechs, it's not viable outside a few circumstances to offer much value. Maybe this is just me, but let me know below if you have any thoughts on this map too. Anyways, on my best northern attempt I managed to push all the way into Hawk's HQ area to begin squatting on his bases to block them. If I can take these and hold, it will eventually turn into a win. This is looking pretty good until he levies his huge income advantage to build a medium tank, which I just don't have the means to deal with right now. I try to sack my tanks to trap it on its base to let my own damaged artillery pound against it, but I don't have enough tanks, and he moves off to hit one of my artillery. I get the feeling I'm done here even if I can manage to hold my own HQ, and he cements that revelation a turn or two later by building a Neo tank next to his HQ. RIP Volcano Mission. I decided to take a break after that one because I just wasn't really feeling that mission, though I have a feeling I'm going to be coming back to it because a glance at the other missions wasn't particularly encouraging. Drake is the next choice to try. This mission is the grand matchup of expensive sea units versus Hawk's Air Force. I start with 6 properties, and the high cost of naval units has me worried. Hawk starts off with a few B-copters, but thankfully I'm given a few cruisers of my own to help out, which I sprint forward with full aggression. The key here is not to let Hawk's expansion spiral out of control. I need to restrict his early advance as much as possible since I'm working with such limited resources and naval units are incredibly cost inefficient. My only hope is to pin him in his corner so that I can slowly whittle down his forces with battleships while cruisers handle his air units. A single battleship costs 28k, which means I need 5 full turns of saving before I can even afford one. Cruisers aren't cheap either, coming in at 18k and relying heavily on first strike advantages since they quickly lose their effectiveness if attacked first or damaged. Watching CO power meters is more important here than ever. I don't have the time or fuel to pull anything back to my only port, and so I'll be reliant on using gradually weakening ships as Hawk chips down my health while joining units when really desperate. Drake can do the same to him, but I need to ensure I only use my power when he won't be using his soon, because otherwise he'll simply heal any damage mine does. Ships are expensive, so in theory you might think I'll be getting to use my power often. But because I must guard them so hard from unit damage and CO power damage doesn't contribute to my meter, I'll only be filling it slowly while damaging his units, which of course yields more charge for him than me. This turns into a really long grind, but I'm actually extremely successful when it comes to halting his advance and trapping his units, far better than I expected. As time passes, I gradually build up my ship count and whittle away at his forces, frequently attacking units on properties even if I can't destroy them just to waste his funds on repairs. My battleships are losing power the longer the fight goes, but they make up for that loss with numbers. Eventually, I push him back enough that I can start landing ground forces, and while this takes a long time to actually do, I eventually net my win on day 59 after over an hour of just this one run. Whew, thank you battleships. Completing this nets me 4 wins, and at long last, the factory mission unlocks. This is the big moment. The Green Earth factory is here. I've already come farther than I expected to, and if I can pull this off, Green Earth will be free and we'll be heading to Black Hole itself. First though, it's time to try and liberate Green Earth. Eagle brings the full might of the Green Earth Air Force to darken the skies. Andy rolls forward with Neotanks and his repair power to shake the Earth. Sonya even takes on the heavy duties by supplying her mixtape to boost morale.
Thinking about going over some strategy before the tournament. Should I work on my ABAX?
Hey, you guys mind if I put in my mixtape?
This is what we're working with? Well, to each their own, I guess. I wanted grit or coal in here, but Blue Moon isn't an option for this battle. Contrary to what I just said about mighty armies, we're working with very little here. Knowing Eagle and Andy, they were probably getting a rivalry argument on and forgot to fuel up their vehicles before leaving, so everything's now sitting out in a field somewhere a few hundred miles away from the battlefield. Eagle will be working with 7 properties, Andy with 5, and Sonya with a measly 3. It's safe to say everyone but Eagle is going to be having a hard time here. And Eagle's so far away from the battlefield, any unit is going to take multiple days of travel before it can do anything. Still, I have a carefully crafted plan in mind for this mission, and it requires every CO to do their part. Think of this like a heist mission. Step 1. Andy will be building early infantry and an APC, rushing them forward to claim the missile sites before Hawk. This factory is the most aggressive so far, so he has no hope to hold them off. I'll fire them for asset denial, and will be targeting fighters because those will have the easiest time wrecking my plans if left unchecked. Step 2. Eagle's Air Force will make the long haul across the map, flying east and then north. His primary objective is to escort a bomber to destroy the Black Cannons. This is why I'm targeting fighters with those rockets, and I'll start him off by building a fighter followed by a bomber. There's only enough time in this run to build 1 bomber, so I need to make it count. The fighter comes first though to deter Hawk's own air units because if any of them come down and the bomber is damaged too early, it's game over. Eagle will send over additional fighters for more support as the match progresses. Step 3. Moral support from Sonya. She'll do literally nothing for the longest time to save up funds, but I'm sure her mixtape is providing some great moral support. Step 4. Andy delays Hawk's advance to hopefully draw aggro while Eagle takes out the cannons. When the bomber is at full health, he can do this in a single turn per cannon, which is amazing. Step 5. It's Sonyan time. Sonya finally does something by building a rockets and a lander, which she will use to escort the rockets east and then north on a long adventure. It will slowly move up into range of the pipe and the small cannon in front of it. I stopped destroying Hawk's units partway through Sonya's journey because his power meter was charging too fast and him using it could cost me the run if I was unlucky. So instead shifted to making a pseudo-blockade. I was fortunate to push the meter too far past his basic power that he committed to saving for his super, which was great for buying time, but terrible in that he still managed to get it off before Sonya could target the pipe, bringing the rockets down to 8 HP. This means the pipe will take 3 turns to destroy. Unfortunately as well, this cannon on the other side covers the only spot that the ranged unit can hit the pipe from, and it's not looking like I will have enough time to take out both. Hawk's troops are bearing down on me, and the odds of winning are dropping with every turn. If I take too much damage on this rockets, it's a reset. I'll need to be crafty here by sacking Eagle's stronger units to draw fire from the cannon. This is viable because when a cannon fires, the AI chooses the unit that has the highest cost as its target, and these air units are much more expensive while at equal health. It does mean I can only use 1 per hit though, since the cannon does 5 points of damage. This gets tense, but after sacrificing 3 strong units for the rockets, the third being my last in the area, Sonya is able to destroy the pipe and set Green Earth free. Green Earth was a mixed bag for this challenge. Some of the missions were quite satisfying to play, and then there were others that were just a big nope. Originally, I thought that this continent is where my run would be coming to an end, but persistence has paid off, and I can now say for certain that it is beatable without capturing a single property. This latest mission is probably where I'd felt the most certain the run would end, so getting through it feels amazing. I'm currently semi-confident with Black Hole looming on the horizon. There are 2 missions there that are both against Sturm, the most powerful co in the campaign. I like my odds for one of those, but the other, not so much. At all. The favorable one is up first, as we assault the beaches of Black Hole to face off against an onslaught of cannons. To win, I must destroy the 3 large black cannons. Sturm has some naval units moving up and down the side of the map, but otherwise, everything he has is trapped behind pipes, which means I don't have a time limit to worry about, so long as I keep those pipes closed. To this end, I get to pick 3 commanders and place Grit in the middle because he can hit the middle black cannon from this side of the pipe. Drake takes the left for his stronger battleships and damaging CO power, and Andy gets the right because of his repair. I don't actually expect to get to use any of their powers, but they seem the best option for this map just in case things got really bad somehow. Initially, I planned to take battleships on my side commanders to target down the left and right cannons, but as I got into the map and started counting tiles, I realized that wasn't viable anymore, so I focus all of their funds towards medium tanks while Grit builds rockets. The tanks might seem strange, but there's a reason for them. While building up, I'll use Grit to take out the small black cannons in preparation. When I feel confident about my standing force, I begin to rush the pipe. My goal isn't to destroy it, but to get Grit rockets in place beneath each of the large black cannons. Those medium tanks come into play here to draw fire away from the ranged units in the same way the air unit did last mission. Since medium tanks have a 1k higher cost than rockets, a full health tank will get targeted first. As long as I can keep one of these in range, my rockets will be safe. I have a lot of properties to start with, so it progresses fairly quickly, and it isn't long after that the cannons begin to fall. It was tense because I kept expecting my rockets to get targeted anyways, and was constantly worried about that, but it all went well, and victory was achieved. I didn't even leave anything on 1 HP this time. While we're here, it's a good time to give that familiar pitch and say that if you like this content, consider subscribing, leaving a like, or dropping a comment down below with your ideas for future videos. Now, on to the mission I've been most afraid of, the final fight of the campaign, a timed battle against Sturm and the full might of Black Hole. Despite being such an important mission, it's one I don't remember nearly as much as most of the others in this campaign for some reason, though I do recall that child me had a hard time with it, and so it still carries this extra difficulty weight in my mind despite older me never really having trouble during a normal playthrough. I didn't think I'd get this far in this challenge to even see it, but now here we are, and I anticipate it being a great challenge as a result. My goal here is to destroy the laser in front of Sturm's missile platform, and the 2 catches here are that every 7 days, the laser fires a massive death laser down the middle of the map that will wreck my center commander if they're not careful, and that there's a 30-day time limit that I for some reason thought was only 25 before I loaded in. An extra 5 days is pretty nice. Sturm has a massive amount of daily income and 2 black cannons as well, which I'll need to contend with as I attempt to rush down the center since going around or fighting through is definitely not an option for me. I opt for Colin in the center because of his reduced unit cost, with Eagle to the left and Andy on the right. In anticipation of this mission, I've been studying speedrunner tactics for strategies, and I've found one that currently seems too good to be true. My early turns are the norm of saving up for something expensive. In this case, a bomber from Colin and Andy. Colin's bomber will sprint up in a direct route to my main target. Eagle is here for moral support and to possibly draw some attention away from Colin by simply existing. Andy's bomber will run diversion for my Colin bomber, both of them coming into range of a black cannon on the same turn. Because Colin's units cost less, Andy's bomber draws the fire from the cannon so that his next turn Colin can rush by unscathed. From here, I'm carefully watching Sturm's units and hoping for good RNG that he doesn't spawn too much anti-air to cut me off. To this end, I also migrate one of Eagle's infantry south to a missile silo as a precaution in case I need to soften up a dangerous unit. I dodge the death ray on turn 7, and then sweep into open fire on the ray itself. I'm not harassed by anti-air, and the ray is destroyed on the next turn. That was simultaneously anticlimactic and thrilling at the same time. What a weird combo. I spent most of this run convinced that even if I got this far, this is where I would absolutely hit a brick wall because of the time limit. And here we are not only winning it, but winning it as one of the easiest fights in the entire campaign. Before this run, I had no idea this mission could be done so quickly, and I know child me would have dreamed of this knowledge in comparison to whatever weird slog I managed to accomplish at that age. Sturm attempts to self-destruct the missile, Hawk stops him, Andy wants cake, and with that, I have proven that it is in fact possible to successfully complete Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising without ever capturing a single property. This run was pretty fun overall for challenging myself, and I'd recommend it as a way to mix up gameplay if you're replaying the game. The bulk of the difficulty comes from the lack of disposable income forcing you to weigh the value of every purchase and being too far away from everything you want to be near the majority of the time you want to be there. As I say that aloud, I feel I've just described some sort of simulator for real life, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's a lot to process. Some of the missions are incredibly tedious and grindy, and so if you're doing a run of this yourself, I'd suggest allowing a few captures each mission just to cut down on that and make it a little easier. Maybe look over the map when you start and give yourself 1 to 4 properties to capture just to boost your income and cut down on travel time for reinforcements. Oh, but before you go, there is one final challenge remaining in this run, and that's to sit through the end credits so that I can see my average score. I pressed every button I could except for the power button, and I wasn't able to skip this or speed it up. But I'm certain you're curious too what my final score was, so I stuck through to the end. I love the nostalgia hit this final image always gives me, and to my surprise, our final score is rank A. Wow, I did not expect to score that high on this run. Thank you for watching. Lunar Knights, signing off.